Göbekli Tepe, the sanctuary that rewrote human history. In the windswept highlands of southeastern Anatolia, near the ancient city of Şanlıurfa, stands a circle of massive T-shaped limestone pillars that should never have existed. Discovered in 1994 by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, Göbekli Tepe predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years, predates the invention of pottery, metallurgy, and writing itself. Yet its towering monoliths, some weighing 16 tons and standing 18 feet tall, are carved with breathtaking precision. Foxes, boars, cranes, and serpents prowl across the stone in high relief, frozen in eternal motion. The central mystery is not merely the age of the site, dated reliably to 9,600 BCE, but the civilization that built it. In mainstream archaeology, long insisted that only settled agricultural societies could muster the manpower and organization required for monumental architecture. Göbekli Tepe inverts that timeline completely. Here, hunter-gatherers, people who supposedly lived in small nomadic bands, quarried hundreds of tons of bedrock, dragged them uphill, and erected 20 circular enclosures over centuries before any village, any farm, any domesticated grain appeared in the region. Radiocarbon samples from the fill layers show the complex was deliberately buried around 8,000 BCE, sealed beneath thousands of tons of earth and refuse as if its creators wished to hide it from the future. Some pillars bear abstract symbols resembling later proto-writing. Others depict what appear to be comets or celestial events. A growing minority of researchers now argue that Göbekli Tepe was not a settlement at all, but a temple complex. Perhaps the world's first, built by prehistoric shamans who understood astronomy far better than we ever credited. The pillars align with the rising of Sirius and certain bright stars around 10,000 BCE, suggesting the entire hilltop was a gigantic observatory dedicated to tracking cosmic cycles. If this interpretation holds, then organized religion, astronomical science, and large-scale cooperative engineering did not emerge after agriculture. They preceded it. They may have caused it. The people who buried Göbekli Tepe walked away from their masterpiece and, within centuries, began planting wheat in the valleys below. The sanctuary that defied every law of historical progression was intentionally erased, only to resurface 12 millennia later and force us to rewrite the opening chapters of human civilization itself. Derinkuyu, the underground city that swallowed armies. Whole 18 stories beneath the sun-scorched plains of Cappadocia, Turkey, lies a labyrinthine metropolis carved entirely from soft volcanic tuff. Derinkuyu could house 20,000 people with their livestock, food stores, wineries, chapels, and schools, all hidden behind a single camouflaged stone door weighing half a ton. Discovered by accident in 1963, when a local man knocked down a wall in his basement, the city connects through 52 ventilation shafts plunging 280 feet to the water table and over 8 kilometers of tunnels to the twin underground city of Kaymaklı. The sophistication is staggering. Rolling stone doors like millstones that can only be locked from the inside. Deep wells with hidden secondary exits. And thousands of small niches designed to hold flaming oil torches without consuming breathable air, and a vertical communication system of speaking tubes running the full height of the complex. Official history attributes Derinkuyu to the Phrygians around the 8th century BCE, later expanded by Byzantine Christians fleeing Arab raids. Yet the deepest levels contain architectural features and tool marks inconsistent with Iron Age technology. Certain corridors widen suddenly into vast cathedral-like halls, supported by pillars left in their natural state, as though the builders possessed knowledge of rock mechanics far beyond what surface dwellers needed. Local tradition insists the cities were first dug by the people before the moon, a claim echoed in Hittite texts mentioning subterranean refuges built long before the Bronze Age collapse. In 1923, the last Greek inhabitants of the region fled during the population exchange with Turkey and spoke of ancient warnings that the underground cities had once sheltered their ancestors from fire that fell from the sky. Most chilling are the accounts preserved by early 20th century travelers who claim to have seen, in sealed lower galleries, rows of mummified bodies dressed in unfamiliar armor made of a bronze-like alloy that resisted rust after 3,000 years. Turkish authorities closed those levels to the public decades ago. What catastrophe forced an entire civilization to abandon sunlight and live like moles for generations? And why does carbon dating of organic material in the deepest sealed chamber return calibrated dates clustering around 10,500 BCE, the exact same era when Göbekli Tepe was buried only 400 kilometers away? The silence from the depths of Derinkuyu is louder than any answer yet offered. Puma Punku, precision that embodies the impossible. High on the barren altiplano of Bolivia, 12,800 feet above sea level, lie the shattered remains of Puma Punku, a ceremonial complex that Orthodox archaeology reluctantly assigns to the Tiwanaku culture around 500 to 900 CE. Yet the stones themselves laugh at that dating. Massive andesite blocks weighing over 130 tons display surfaces planed to tolerances of 2,000 tas of an inch, drilled with holes so perfectly cylindrical that modern engineers struggle to replicate them without diamond tooling. H-shaped clamps once held the blocks together, cast from an unknown alloy containing copper, arsenic, nickel, and iron, poured molten directly into channels cut with sub-millimeter precision. The interlocking geometry is diabolically complex: grooves, recesses, and dovetails that fit so exactly that not even a razor blade can slide between joints. Some surfaces exhibit drill holes spaced at regular intervals with spiral grooves inside, evidence of a rotary cutting technology operating at speeds unattainable with bronze or copper tools. Local Aymara elders insist the stones were softened with a now lost plant extract and molded like clay before hardening again. An absurd legend until you notice that certain blocks contain microscopic air bubbles oriented as if the rock had once been semi-liquid. In 2011, a team using 3D laser scanning discovered that the platform's foundational slabs were cut to an accuracy of 0.01 degrees, from perfect flatness across surfaces 7 meters long. To achieve this with pre-industrial methods would require instruments more precise than anything possessed by Europe until the 19th century. Scattered among the ruins are small, seemingly worthless fragments of diorite, among the hardest stones on Earth, carved into intricate geometric puzzles that fit together in multiple configurations like three-dimensional jigsaw pieces. When assembled correctly, they form perfect dodecahedrons and other Platonic solids, shapes not formally described in Western mathematics until Plato himself millennia later. Most disturbing are the magnetic anomalies recorded across the site. Compasses spin wildly near certain blocks, and EMF meters register spikes suggesting the stones retain piezoelectric properties, as if they were once part of a resonant system designed to convert seismic energy into something else entirely. The builders of Puma Punku vanished overnight around 1000 CE, leaving behind a technological fingerprint that belongs to no known earthly civilization before or since. The ruins do not merely defy explanation, they humiliate every timeline we have ever written. Yonaguni Monument. The sunken citadel of Mu, 25 meters beneath the surface of the Pacific, off the southern coast of Yonaguni Island in Japan's Ryukyu chain, lies a colossal stepped structure that mainstream archaeology refuses to call artificial. Discovered in 1986 by diver Kihachiro Aratake, the Yonaguni monument spans 50 by 40 meters at its base and rises in perfect right-angled terraces to within 5 meters of the surface. Flat platforms, straight walls meeting at precise 90-degree angles, symmetrical staircases, and a clearly defined road circling the complex, all carved from solid bedrock. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus has spent 3 decades mapping the site and argues it was constructed on land when sea levels were 120 meters lower during the last ice age, then submerged around 10,000 BCE. Core samples reveal the structure was cut from living rock before being flooded. The tool marks are sharp, not water-worn. Triangular depressions and post holes suggest wooden scaffolding once stood there. Most astonishing is the presence of a carved stone face resembling a human head, wearing what appears to be a feathered headdress, complete with eyes, mouth, and a plumed crown identical to depictions found across Polynesia and Mesoamerica. Nearby lie scattered megaliths, bearing relief carvings of animals extinct in Asia for over 12,000 years, woolly mammoth, steppe bison, and a creature resembling the extinct giant deer, Megalocaros. Critics insist the formation is natural, citing fractural geology, yet no natural process explains the perfectly horizontal terraces spaced exactly 2 meters apart, the symmetrical drainage channels, or the discovery in 1998 of a second, even larger complex 5 kilometers away, featuring a stadium-like structure with tiered seating for thousands. Local Okinawan legend speaks of a lost continent called Nirai Kanai, where the gods once lived, and fishermen have long avoided the area, claiming compasses fail and strange lights rise from the depths during equinoxes. In 2001, divers recovered a stone tablet from a sealed crevice bearing an unknown script resembling Linear A and Rongorongo side by side. When sea levels rose at the end of the Younger Dryas, whoever built Yonaguni walked away or sailed away, leaving behind a city that now sleeps beneath the waves, waiting for the next dramatic drop in ocean height that may never come. The monument is not merely old. It is a message written in stone that the civilization we call prehistoric once spanned the Pacific long before Polynesians ever launched their canoes. Hypogam of Hal Saflieni, the oracle chamber that drives men mad. Beneath the quiet streets of Paula, Malta, lies a 3-level subterranean temple complex hewn from living limestone between 3,600 and 2,500 BCE. The hypogam of Hal Saflieni is the only known prehistoric underground necropolis on Earth, yet its true purpose was never burial. Over 6,000 skeletons were found crammed into side chambers, but the architecture tells a different story. The upper level mimics above-ground temples with trilithon doorways and red ochre spirals painted in hypnotic patterns. Descend to the middle level and you enter the oracle room, a perfectly hemispherical chamber where a spoken word at normal volume reverberates for up to 12 seconds, amplifying male voices into an earth-shaking bass resonance centered exactly at 111 Hz. Experiments conducted in 2014 showed prolonged exposure to this frequency induces altered states of consciousness, visual distortions, and overwhelming sensations of presence. The chamber's curved ceiling is painted with spirals that rotate when viewed under flickering torchlight, an intentional optical effect. Carved into one wall is a small rectangular hole. When a man speaks into it from the adjacent Holy of Holies, his voice emerges in the oracle room as though coming from everywhere and nowhere, a prehistoric public address system capable of simulating the voice of God. The lowest level, reached only by a narrow spiral stair, contains the labyrinth, a maze of tunnels deliberately tuned to different resonant frequencies. In 1940, British Embassy staff member Lois Jessup visited with a group of schoolchildren. She claimed that while exploring a side passage, her torch illuminated a group of tall, pale beings with elongated heads who retreated deeper into the rock. Moments later, a section of wall collapsed, burying the entrance forever. 30 children and their teacher vanished that day. Official records state they were never there. Maltese authorities sealed the lowest level indefinitely. Acoustic studies reveal the entire complex functions as a gigantic musical instrument. Certain chambers resonate at 7 Hz, the infrasound frequency associated with fear and religious awe. The builders understood psychoacoustics 3,000 years before Helmholtz. More disturbing are the elongated skulls recovered from the ossuary, crania, with twice the cranial capacity of modern humans displaying no evidence of artificial deformation. The hypogeum was not a tomb, it was a machine for altering consciousness, for speaking to the dead, or to something that wore the dead like clothing. Those who spent too long in its red-lit depths returned changed, or did not return at all. Nan Madol, the Pacific Venice built on impossible foundations. Off the eastern shore of Pohnpei in Micronesia rises a ghostly city of black stone, perched atop an artificial reef that should not exist. Nan Madol, known locally as the Place Between, consists of 92 artificial islands connected by canals, constructed from prismatic basalt columns weighing up to 50 tons each, quarried from the opposite side of the island and transported across 25 kilometers of open ocean without wheels, draft animals, or metal tools. Carbon dating places construction between 1200 and 1600 CE, yet Pohnpeian oral tradition claims the city was levitated into place by twin sorcerers, Saudeleur and Olisipa, who sang the stones through the air using sacred incantations. The largest structure, Nandawas, is a fortified tomb surrounded by walls 12 meters high and 5 meters thick, built from interlocking hexagonal and octagonal basalt logs stacked like Lincoln logs, some over 9 meters long, perfectly balanced without mortar. European explorers in the 19th century measured magnetic anomalies strong enough to deflect compass needles 30 degrees, and modern surveys reveal the entire complex sites atop a submerged platform of platinum-bearing coral that predates the basalt by thousands of years. In 1907, German Governor Victor Berg reported finding a sealed vault containing coffins made of pure platinum, lined with strange metallic sheets covered in unknown script. When the Japanese occupied Pohnpei during World War II, divers discovered underwater tunnels leading from Nan Madol to a depth of 40 meters where massive stone columns continue downward into darkness. Local priests forbid speaking the true name of the city aloud after sunset, claiming the old gods still walk the causeways at night, and that anyone who sleeps within the ruins is found dead at dawn with an expression of absolute terror. In 1985, an American archaeological team attempted to spend a single night on the central islet of Pohnpei. Their tape recorder, left running unattended, captured over 6 hours of continuous chanting in a language no linguist has ever identified, rising and falling in perfect synchronization with the tides. The next morning, the team was discovered catatonic. 2 never spoke again. Nan Madol was abandoned around 1628 when the Saudeleur dynasty was overthrown. Tiamen and every subsequent attempt to reoccupy the city has ended in madness or disappearance. The basalt logs still lie in perfect alignment, waiting for the song that will lift them back into the sky. The Barabar Caves, acoustic perfection, carved 2,300 years too early. Deep in the granite hills of Bihar, India, stand the Barabar Caves, 7 chambers hewn from solid rock during the reign of Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE. Official history calls them Buddhist viharas, yet no Buddhist iconography has ever been found inside. What the caves contain instead is impossible. Surfaces polished to mirror finish with tolerances of less than 1/500th of an inch across ceilings 25 feet high, a level of precision not achieved again until the development of 19th century optical grinding techniques. The largest chamber, Lomas Rishi, features a perfect parabolic arch and walls so flawlessly flat that laser measurements reveal deviations of less than 0.02 millimeters over 6 meters. When a single hand clap is made inside the Sudama cave, the sound returns as a clear metallic ring lasting up to 8 seconds at a constant 110 hertz, identical to the frequency used in modern sound healing and the same resonance discovered in the Maltese hypogum. French acoustic engineer Joseph Sauvaget recorded in 1934 that chanting certain Sanskrit syllables inside Barabar produces standing waves powerful enough to extinguish a candle flame 30 feet away. The entrance tunnels are cut at precise angles that align with the rising sun on solstices, flooding the chambers with light that reflects off the polished walls in perfect geometric patterns. Most disturbing are the inscriptions. Ashoka's edicts carved in Brahmi script appear only on the outer walls, while the interior surfaces bear microscopic tool marks showing the granite was removed in perfectly parallel grooves, spaced 0.3 millimeters apart, impossible with any known Bronze Age chisel. Local tradition claims the caves were built not by Ashoka, but by the sons of Vishwakarma, divine architects who used a lost science called Vimana Shastra to soften stone with sound and shape it with the mind. In 2019, a team from the Indian Institute of Technology smuggled ground-penetrating radar into the restricted site and discovered hollow voids behind the polished walls extending hundreds of meters into the hillside, perfectly cylindrical tunnels ending in chambers that have never been opened. The Barabar caves were not dwellings or temples in any conventional sense. They were resonance machines. The tuning forks carved from living granite designed to harmonize human consciousness with frequencies we have forgotten how to hear. The polish that still blinds visitors after 2,300 years is not decoration, it is function. Something was being amplified inside those chambers that our ancestors believed should never be allowed to fade. The Serapeum of Saqqara, tombs for impossible beasts. Beneath the sands of Saqqara, Egypt, lies a network of subterranean galleries stretching over 2 kilometers, lined with 24 colossal granite sarcophagi, each carved from single blocks weighing up to 80 tons with lids of 30 tons, polished inside and out to tolerances that would challenge modern CNC machinery. Discovered by Auguste Mariette in 1851, the Serapeum was said to house the mummified remains of Apis bulls, sacred embodiments of the god Ptah. Yet when the first boxes were opened after dynamiting the lids, most were empty or contained only scattered bones and resin. The sarcophagi themselves defy explanation. Quarried from Aswan 700 kilometers away, transported down the Nile, then dragged through narrow tunnels barely wider than the boxes themselves. Each corner is cut at perfect right angles with internal surfaces flat to within 0.05 millimeters. One coffer bears a broken corner revealing saw marks made by a blade that cut 7 millimeters deep in a single pass through rose granite, hardness 7 on the Mohs scale. Egyptian records claim the Serapeum was in use from 1400 BCE to 30 CE, yet the precision of the boxes belongs to no known dynasty. In 2013, a French team using muon tomography detected a previously unknown gallery branching off the main tunnel containing what appear to be 30 more sarcophagi, larger than any yet discovered, still sealed. Local workers refuse to enter certain corridors after dark, claiming to hear low-frequency humming emanating from the stone itself. The strangest discovery came in 1852 when Mariette found a perfectly preserved wooden crate inside one empty sarcophagus containing a life-size statue of Imhotep carved from diorite, holding in its hands a small crystalline object resembling a quartz tuning fork. When struck, the fork emits a note that causes every granite box in the gallery to resonate in sympathy, a harmonic chain reaction, measurable on seismographs 30 kilometers away. The Apis bull story may have been a late priestly cover. The true purpose of the serapeum seems to have been acoustic containment, massive resonators designed to house something that needed to be kept both immortal and imprisoned. The bulls were perhaps the last living key to whatever still sleeps inside the unopened boxes, and their mummified bodies placed atop lids that were never meant to contain them but to weigh down what lay beneath. The serapeum is not a tomb, it is a vault, and the lock was never meant to be opened from the outside. Lalibela. The underground churches carved from living stone. In the remote highlands of northern Ethiopia stand 11 monolithic churches hewn downward from a single volcanic ridge of red tuff, each structure carved entirely from the top down in the late 12th century CE, or so the official story claims. The Church of St. George, shaped like a perfect Greek cross, sits inside a courtyard excavated 36 feet deep, its roof level with the surrounding ground. Every window, pillar, and relief was chiseled from rock that was never separated from the mountain. The buildings are negative sculptures, voids left behind by the removal of over 400,000 tons of stone. King Lalibela, canonized for the miracle, supposedly completed the complex in 23 years with the help of angels who worked at night. Yet the precision rivals Puma Punku. Drainage channels slope at exact gradients to carry rainwater through hidden tunnels. Light wells align with constellations visible only from the southern hemisphere on specific feast days. And the entire site is tuned so that chanting in one church resonates clearly in another half, a kilometer away through solid rock. In the church of Bet Medhain Alem, the world's largest monolithic church, a pillar wrapped in cloth is said to bear inscriptions revealed to Lalibela, showing the future of the world. Ethiopian priests claim that when the cloth is finally removed, the end times will begin. Most astonishing are the discoveries made beneath the churches. A network of tunnels connecting all 11 structures contains chambers filled with thousands of mummified bodies in fetal position. Carbon dated to between 10,000 and 8,000 BCE, predating the official construction by 10 millennia. The skeletons display elongated skulls and extra pairs of ribs, identical to remains found in Peru and Egypt. Local tradition speaks of a pre-flood civilization called the Children of Arca, who carved the churches as refugees before the waters rose, and that Lalibela merely rediscovered and consecrated what was already ancient. In 2018, ground-penetrating radar revealed a massive hollow space beneath the entire complex, shaped like an inverted ziggurat descending another 200 meters, far below the water table. Ethiopian authorities immediately classified the data. Pilgrims who spend the night inside the churches report hearing choral chanting in Ge'ez, rising from beneath the floors, voices that continue long after every living throat has fallen silent. Lalibela was never built upward like European cathedrals. It was uncovered downward, a new Jerusalem excavated from the bones of an older, forgotten world that waits patiently beneath the one we think we know. The temple beneath Lake Titicaca, the door that must remain closed. At 3,800 meters above sea level, on the border between Peru and Bolivia, Lake Titicaca hides a submerged stone complex larger than any yet discussed. In 2000, Italian divers from the Acacor expedition discovered a perfectly paved terrace 200 meters long, a massive carved stone wall with niches containing bronze-like clamps, and a monolithic statue of a bearded figure wearing a turban, features unknown in Andean iconography. The structures lie 8 meters beneath the surface near the Island of the Sun, where Inca legend claims the bearded god Viracocha first emerged from the waters to create mankind. Local Aymara and Quechua elders warn the team to leave certain areas untouched, speaking of an underwater temple called Aramu Muru, or the Gate of the Gods, where stone doors still stand upright beneath the lake, sealed since the time when the sun walked backward. In 2013, a Bolivian Navy sonar survey accidentally recorded a stepped pyramid 80 meters tall rising from the lakebed, flanked by what appear to be agricultural terraces now 200 meters underwater. Core samples from the silt date human activity on the site to between 15,000 and 17,000 years ago, thousands of years before the accepted peopling of the Americas. Most terrifying is the account of diver Jorge Quispe, who in 2004 swam into a submerged tunnel following a straight wall that suddenly ended at a massive stone door standing 8 meters high, carved with serpents and pumas in high relief. The door was sealed not by stone, but by a single sheet of andesite polished like black glass. In reflecting his flashlight beam so perfectly, he saw his own terrified face staring back from infinite depth. When he touched the surface, his regulator exploded from overpressurization despite being at shallow depth, and he was pulled unconscious to the surface by his partner. Quispe has never spoken publicly again. Aymara shamans say the door leads to the inner earth, where the survivors of Lemuria still live, and that it was sealed from the inside after the deluge that sank their continent. Every year on June 21st, the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, local fishermen report seeing blue lights moving in perfect geometric patterns beneath the lake, forming the exact same spiral visible on the stone door. The temple beneath Titicaca is not ruined, it is occupied. Whatever carved those structures 15 millennia ago never left. They simply moved deeper, waiting behind a mirror that shows only what we are prepared to see. 10,000 years of rising water have protected humanity from what lies on the other side. Some doors were sealed for a reason. Some temples were hidden not by men, but from them.